all the groovy things that are going on. Really, purpose of this is that you might have noticed there's been a lot of changes taking place, not least to the front page. And Matt will be talking next week about what's happening to, well, I'll let him talk about that, but it's going to be a huge change, and I think you're all going to love it. But while all of that's been going on, Maria, Jorge, myself, and Matt have been working on some of the real underlying fundamentals of how the community works and policies and procedures and how we approach the playlists that we make. And we're making a really big fundamental change, which is why we thought we'd come on live. So I think what we'll do, I'm going to hand over to Maria, and Maria's going to take you through it, and then we're just going to have a discussion at the end as to why we're doing this and how we've got to this point. So without any further ado, Maria, what's going on?
Hello. Happy to be here as always, and lots going on as always. So basically, we have, since the website build, we've been wanting to redirect our energy into how we're onboarding people, and we've obviously brought in a good amount of people into the community recently. You've seen us introducing them, and some of you may be collaborating with them. And, coming in, we had an idea that structurally things are going to change a little bit, but we still weren't quite there yet. So basically, we've been incubating since the website built, since we now have time. And we are trying to create basically pathways for you all to choose from when you're coming into Circle in the ways that we're creating our playlists going forward. So we now have 3 pathways basically that we've set up. We've got your yes 3, which is really beautiful and simple. So we've got our collaborative playlists, which we have lovingly been creating many of. Then we have what we are now calling solo playlists, which are all of the additional individual playlists that we've been sharing out. And then we have dynamic playlists, which are what our individual playlists were originally. The main playlist we all started out with in music too. So as you can tell, the focus is being shifted away from creating a main playlist and kind of leaving it open to the way all of us want to manifest differently in different styles of playlists. So yes, let's digest that a little bit more.
Well, we're 5 years in, and you have to, sometimes you have to climb halfway up the mountain to actually see what it looks like. And the way we've got to where we're at is because we did what we're now calling the dynamic playlist. If a dynamic playlist is a playlist that is constantly being updated, like you add a track and you add the track right up, the traditional way that we've done it for years. By doing that with the 100+ playlists that we've had and the thousands of posts, that's what's given Music 2 its legitimacy. That's what grew us online and delivered all the SEO goodness. But we've got to the point where we recognize that there's a lot of burnout in there. I had to shelve essay writing. Maria shelved Explore Everything quite a while ago, yeah. Because sometimes there's only so much you can do that. But the dynamic lists will always be important. But it's this last year that we recognized, the power in the collaborative list. And then these, what we were calling the additional lists. And it was funny over the last few weeks, wasn't it, Maria, about trying to come up with naming that really defines those.
Yes. Yeah, you will. Yeah, it's unbelievably challenging to try and come up with a language that's going to be kind of globally understood, as well as just make sense to the context of what we're doing. So, yeah, but it's quite fun. It's definitely fun.
for the older curators, the curators that have been with us several years, I mean, we had communicated across that your individual list is what we are now calling the dynamic list, and that makes sense because it's dynamic; it changes. The collaborative lists, well, they make sense, don't they? It's you're collaborating, whether it's with one curator or two, or whether it's a community list. So that makes sense. And then, we've gone back on a number of different terms, but the word solo, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's a list that you do yourself. It's what we were calling additional curator lists, but really it's a solo list, and it can be anything. It could be a where to start with list, or it could be a music like list, or it could be like all the lists that you have. But now we've got this clarity. We've got these 3 types of lists, and then it's going to make it easier to bring people into Circle. Because Maria's now looking at, well, talk a bit about how that's, because we've heard the feedback. It's a little confusing coming in as to where we go, and we think this might clear up.
It's just like personally, as someone, I spend time going through the processes just like everyone else, so that I can see where, what it looks like for me, and it's going to look like different for everyone, of course, which is why everyone's input is extremely important. Whatever we can get, but it allows you to sort of see, there's just a lot going on. And for me personally, I think channeling information can be, and simplifying, just always simplifying is always better, for all involved. Going forward, it's really, for, at least from my point of view, trying to make it as accessible and still fun for everyone to use and make sense, so you know where to go and what you're doing and what's expected, and and just make it easier to navigate. That's really what it's all about.
It really is. And for new curators coming on into Circle, and in the past, it's like, get your dynamic list up and running. Whereas now it's a case of, well, maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe when you first come into Circle, you've made your first collaborative list with Maria, and that's been the process. And now you're in. It's like, oh, maybe I want to do another collaborative list. Or maybe I've got a load of solo playlists that I love, that I'd love to get published on MusicTube. Maybe I want to spend some time there. Or maybe it is a third pathway. Maybe you're eager and excited to get your dynamic list up and running and start, publishing and sharing out to social. So it makes it a lot. It's clearer and easier. It's like a toothpaste commercial. It's clearer. No, that would be an I think. So that also has a huge impact on policies and procedures. And we're not going to get too deep into this right now, but in the past we had these minimum standards of you must publish a track a week and you must share it to social, otherwise you'll be taken out at dawn and shot. And that's probably not terribly conducive to community, is it? So we're really opening that up to to say, look, if you're here, it's because you want to be here. And it would be great if you did something a month, but if you're collaborating with somebody, or you're publishing a solo list, or you are getting your dynamic list and publishing, it makes it much more, by getting rid of the restrictions or getting rid of the requirements, then it opens it up to be, hey, I don't feel like publishing on my dynamic list this month because I'm just bloody done with instrumental music at the moment. I want to listen to, some deep Southern trap music because I've got a trap solo list that I'm eager to get out. I mean, it should open it wide up, shouldn't it, Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of our focuses is that the people we're bringing in are curious. We want curiosity to be such a major part of who we are. And, I want this to be a place to come into because there's a lot to look at and a lot to discover, and and allow you to do that. You don't have any restrictions as to your curiosity, right? So, and creating. That's a big deal.
One of the things that again, I don't want to get into too much detail because Matt will talk more about it, is that we're making a fundamental change to how music moves through the community, and I can't wait for that. Because I've been running 2 dynamic lists. I had music to write in Essay 2 and music to Groove 2, and I had to shelve music to Groove 2 because it was just too depressing. For like 4 years listening to sad music, I was like, no, I have to stop. But even with essay writing, music to write in Essay 2, it's like there's variety out there, and I'm just eating from the same bloody menu all the time, and I want that to change. And I'm so geeked and excited that we're all going to have access to all the new music coming in, and that's going to change everything again. So we're kind of stoked as a team as to where these things are. I will be sending out the newsletter tonight and embedding this video in so that everybody's got an idea of where we're going. I'm using the analogy, and I have been for the last month or so, of building a ship. And what Matt will deliver next week is one of the last 2 planks. And what Maria and Jorge, because now you know what we're doing, they're going to be codifying that and then changing the way Circle looks, changing some of the spaces, doing some of the screencasts, changing the language so that it's much, much cleaner when you come on board so that everybody knows what they're doing. Then we update the policies and procedures, and then we update, the language on the front page of the website. So again, we're more focused on the people that we are interested on bringing on board. That's the final plank, and then the ship is built. Took 5 years, but it's built, and then we can take it out for a spin, and it's going to be fun. So, I think that's it. Is there anything we missed, Maria?
I mean, not that I think so.
All right. Well, watch your inboxes tonight. Watch your inboxes next weekend. Watch your inboxes the weekend after that. There's some good stuff coming. So thank you all for being a part of it. From me, from Maria, peace out. Bye.